What's good, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of Heroic Insider, coming at you this week from the Stream Studios here in Hollywood. Heroic Insider is the show where we give you the inside scoop on all things heroic happening here in Hollywood. I'm your host, Humberto Gonzalez. With me is my co-host, Daniel Alter.
Hey, everybody.
We also have a very special guest this week, a fellow ace scooper from The Rock. Please welcome to the show, Jeff Sneider.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for being with us, bro. All right. Before we begin, though, I'd like to observe a moment of silence for the world received tragic news today on the way here, and Prince passed away. I mean, I'm still in shock over the news, and I think it's best if we just take a quick moment of silence and observance. Okay, where I'm from, MC Memes moved the crowd and the show must go on, so let's get to it, gentlemen. Box office. You called this one last week on the show. The Jungle Book dominated the weekend box office, grossing a massive $103.6 million and extending the Walt Disney Company's success in transforming its animated classics into live-action hits. What do you got to say?
Look, I've been saying this for a while now, and it's not just because of Marvel or Star Wars, but Hollywood has kind of become Disney World, and we just all live in it now. Tremendous success all across the board. What they've been able to do with movies like Cinderella and what's probably going to happen, Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book. You're just talking about everything they touch is gold now. They're at that place. They understand franchises and properties and brands better than anybody in this town. That is what this town has become, and they are leading it. They are crushing it.
What about you, Jeff?
Not surprised that it overperformed from the initial tracking estimates. I saw the movie. I thought it was fantastic. I got out. It felt like $1 billion movie to me. I think that they can get it there. You know, especially there's no other big movie in the marketplace really until Civil War in early May. So
interesting. Now, since we're still on box office, let's look at this weekend, the box office preview. Will Huntsman, Winter's War be summer's first flop? The Jungle Book is set to clobber The Huntsman, which is tracking around 23 to 25 million despite a 115 million negative cost. And that's less than half what Snow White and The Huntsman grossed in its initial June 2012 domestic debut, on its way to earning almost 400 million worldwide. What do you guys say about that?
Look, first movie made about 400 million worldwide.
Right.
And I know that sounds like a big number, but when you spend 250, 300 million to make a market a movie, you kind of need to double that just in your worldwide gross. And people also, they like to play box office now, everybody, but they don't really understand that the domestic is still the most important because the most amount of money, the rentals come to the studio versus the theaters, whereas the foreign, it's a little bit more favored for the exhibitors, especially in China. So without getting into a long, answer, 400 million didn't necessarily warrant a sequel. And that's what happens when you try and engineer a franchise. We just talked about how Disney is so great at it. I think a lot of other studios are trying to play catch up, and they're not really understanding how the game is played.
Yeah, I mean, Disney has a certain way with fairy tales in a way that I don't think that Universal necessarily has with this Snow White thing. I hated the first film. I don't understand why it got a sequel, even financially. Like Daniel said, it didn't really hit that benchmark. They had a lot of interesting elements. They have Chris Hemsworth, who's becoming a bigger star, so they want to put him front and center. They put more star power into the film with Jessica Chastain and Emily Blunt, but the budget seems to have been scaled back from the original. So, no, I'm not surprised that it's not doing well. I never really understood who the audience was for this, especially with Kristen Stewart gone.
It's interesting you bring up Chris Hemsworth, because I did want to bring up the topic real quick. What is it with Hemsworth that outside of playing Thor and a lot of the other Marvel actors, they can't open a movie?
Nothing. What is it with any actor? What is it with Michael Fassbender, that a lot of his films that aren't based on a prequel to Alien or some sort of an X-Men movie don't do well? We don't have many movie stars anymore. For the most part, it's a dying breed. This is why everyone is trying to find their franchise, trying to find their vehicle, that property they can marry themselves with. I don't think to blame it on Chris Hemsworth is fair at all. I think
blaming him.
It's just the way the game is played. He obviously took a project, as we discussed, that he thought could have been a franchise, and they tried to milk it for all it's worth and make it a franchise. I'm sure he got paid better for these movies than he did for his Marvel Thor contract. But at the end of the day, no matter most actors are just going to have to simply be package compatible.
I think Chris Hemsworth is a movie star. He just hasn't chosen good movies. The two that jump out obviously are Black Hat and In the Heart of the Sea. On paper, those look like good projects to sign on to. They just didn't work out as planned. So again, I won't put the blame on his shoulders. He's just kind of getting unlucky, so to speak.
Because the ultimate irony to me is outside of Robert Downey Jr., the only one of the Avengers that seemed to open a movie is the one without an action figure, the Black Widow.
But wait a second, why are we even including Robert Downey Jr.? Is he a movie? Can he open a movie? He didn't open The Judge.
But he could open Sherlock Holmes, and what else did he open?
Well, I think Jeff makes a great point about that, though. Sherlock Holmes is a franchise, and that's a property, and that's why that was conceived from day one. And we suddenly start to live in a climate where Robert Downey Jr., I remember at one point, was announced with much fanfare that he was coming back for 2 Avengers sequels. Well, now he's also in Civil War, and they just announced today that he's in SpiderMan. So
it's all he's doing.
He gets what's going on. So does Ben Affleck. This is the world we live in now, the branded world, and big actors want to play in that space.
I don't know. I see Affleck doing other stuff. I worry that Robert Downey Jr. is actually spending too much time in the MCU. I would like to see him use his clout to make more films like The Judge, but better than The Judge.
Okay, all right. Okay, good point. Next, Justice League adds William Dafoe to the cast. William Dafoe is joining the good guys in Justice League. He'll go from a Marvel villain to a DC good guy. Although details, this is my favorite part, of his new character are being kept under lock and key. We ran a story right afterwards on 7 characters he could possibly be playing, among them Captain Daryl Fry, Orion, or possibly another new god, Detective West, Detective John Jones, aka the Martian Manhunter, Tom Curry, Dr. Fate, or the one which I think it might be. I could be wrong though, Ted Kord. What do you guys think?
I remember when Holly Hunter got cast, everybody was speculating who she could be, and that seems to be the thing to do anytime you have one of these movies is, oh, somebody got cast who they could be. There are such thing in these movies as characters that are also just created that they want to go out and get great actors to breathe life into and add to the package and elevate them. So if he's playing some interesting character, like an older Green Lantern or something, and I'm just throwing that out there, I haven't heard that, I don't know, great. But if he's just there to spice it up, I'm happy for that too.
Well, I looked at the list of characters. I've seen all the stories that have hit the net about 10 characters he could be playing. I don't know any of these characters. The only one I know is Martian Manhunter. And so for some reason, I actually suspect that's what it is. I suspect...
Really?
I suspect it could be a CGI Martian Manhunter with him just doing maybe a voice, maybe mocap. I don't know. But who are these people?
You're terrible. But here's the thing. Like, it could also be a Scoop McNairy type role. Yeah. That he could just be a plot device, and he could.
Exactly.
But he's being. But why? This is the thing I wanted to ask you as a professional. Why can't they just come out and say the character like they used to? Why it's got to be under lock and key, even if he's just a utility character?
Because they release these tidbits in this news in drips and drabs, and it's like, oh, he's cast, and then next week or 2 weeks later it'll be the character, and it's a way to keep these things in the conversation, keep people guessing. Stoke the discussion, so to speak. If they gave it all away in the press release, we'd have nothing to talk about.
But they used to.
Look, I am as much a fanboy as I am anything else, and I spend so much time, and more than I should admit, on sites reading about all this. And there are characters I could go back. People who were cast in Man of Steel, a guy who people said it's Lex Luthor, and he ended up being one of the Kryptonians on the ship. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And this stuff just happens for years. It's like when Holly Hunter got cast. Oh, who is she? Who is she? Sometimes people just want to work with great actors. Chris Nolan had a lot of great actors he just wanted to work with, that once he was at that position of power, he started injecting them into the Batman movies. So you never know. If he's Martian Manhunter, awesome. If he's some other utility character, awesome.
And people are shedding their ego, it seems like Holly Hunter, maybe she just wanted to be part of this comic book movie thing and give it a shot. She knows she doesn't need a big leading, juicy role necessarily. She just wants to come have fun.
Yeah, be part of the zeitgeist.
No, my guess is Ted Kord. I mean, they did obviously allude to it. The other rich guy in the DCU, Kord Industries, in Batman v Superman. So it could be that.
Could be.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Blade Runner sequel moves to October 2017. Originally slated for release in North America January 2018, Alcon Entertainment has now set a global day and date release for the upcoming sequel to Ridley Scott's Blade Runner of October 6, 2017, pitting it against some major competition. 10/6/17 is a placeholder for date for an untitled Fox Marvel film, possibly the recently announced but still unscheduled Deadpool sequel, as well as the untitled WB film, which we broke here, which we are rumoring to think it's going to be the Tomb Raider reboot. So let's say if it is, for sake of discussion, Could this movie actually play ball against a Fox Marvel movie and a Tomb Raider reboot?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the movie's being released by Warner Brothers itself, so that probably means it is taking that date.
Yeah, it's not. It wouldn't go against Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I think it probably is the movie.
Yeah, that is it.
Blade
Runner is the event film.
Yeah.
So Blade Runner, but it says an untitled WB event film.
Well, that was yes. I mean,
that
that's
was
what
the
it was
previous
on
news,
yesterday.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that must be it.
Yeah.
They did well. I mean, that's a good space now to open genre fair. October. It's worked for The Martian and a lot of other movies.
Gravity.
Yep. So I just think that's a good spot. I can't wait for that movie. That's an awesome director.
I'm excited for Blade Runner 2 as well, and I don't know that it should necessarily be scared by an untitled Fox Marvel thing. I mean, is Deadpool going to turn around that quickly? It's a year and a half from now.
I mean, Deadpool will outgross Blade Runner 2. I will tell you that right now. Like Deadpool 2 versus Blade Runner 2, right? Like, we know that, but I think the market can sustain those two movies if they were going head to head.
I don't think that they would open the same day. Though. Someone would blink. Again, studios stake these release dates so far in the future. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see a Fox Marvel movie on that actual day.
The thing is, though, I mean, it worked for Star Wars, obviously. Do you think a sequel set 30 years later could still work for Blade Runner? Because it wasn't that big of a hit. It became a cult classic, of course, on home release, but...
It's an iconic cult classic, and if you are going to do a sequel, the time to do it is following The Force Awakens with Harrison Ford. That's the way you want to ride, right? Like that's what you want. So it's now or never.
I actually found it interesting that Gosling has now jumped Ford in the press releases from Alcon. He is now positioned as he gets first billing, yeah. And from what I understand about Blade Runner, I think that it's possible Robin Wright is going to hire Gosling to investigate the disappearance of her daughter or someone like that.
Interesting.
And then maybe he runs into Harrison Ford along the way, yeah.
Is that a scoop?
That may be a little scoop,
right? That's what you always, that's a scoop.
Yeah, it's like I never know. So I think you're going to see a couple more young actresses join Blade Runner 2. I think that they are thinking big. They already are thinking about further installments.
Yeah, and that's another example, by the way, but an actor, Ryan Gosling. You know, this is a terrific actor. People beat up on him for not being commercial. I've pointed that out myself. You put him in the right package, and there you go.
And I just said the director's fantastic.
Oh my God, one of the best films last year.
I'm not a Blade Runner guy. Definitely not a Blade Runner guy.
Not a Blade Runner guy.
I'm not a comic book guy. I'm barely a guy. I'm not a Blade Runner guy, but Denis' involvement has me really excited for the sequel. I will say that. And where do you weigh in? I know you're doing a great job moderating. I want to hear more from you, Umberto.
You put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Look, I like Blade Runner. I dug it. It was revolutionary for its time, and it's like it inspired filmmakers like Chris Nolan.
Masterpiece.
But I think the competition might be a tad stiff for it, and in the marketplace also. So I'm looking forward to it. Like, let's keep it real. Harrison Ford's having some sort of a renaissance.
They figured out a way, I think, by not just doing a remake the way they did with Total Recall, but by having Harrison Ford involved. I think they figured out a way to keep this relevant post Force Awakens. It's not going to be a Marvel or DC movie, obviously.
It's Batista, guys.
Really?
Batista.
Wow. Well, let's talk about some news that personally excite me that broke this morning. The Hasbro Cinematic Universe takes shape. Okay, Hasbro Cinematic Universe has assembled its writers' room with a Pulitzer Prize winner, an Eisner-winning comic book author, and Marvel Studios scribes among those who will be clacking the keyboard. Michael Chabon, who wrote the novel The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay and worked on Spider-Man 2. Brian K. Vaughan, the creator of the seminal comic works Why the Last Man and showrunner of Under the Dome, and Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel co-writer Nicole Perlman, will help develop a plan for the creation of the interconnected on-screen universe featuring Hasbro's G.I. Joe, Yo Joe, Micronauts, Visionaries, Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, and the ROM brands. Let's get into this. Like we just alluded last week on the show.
We did. But hold on, because you're excited. Now I'm going to do my rain on your parade thing.
Oh, come on.
Here
we go. All right, break it.
I 110% agree with you. G.I. Joe is one of the most undervalued intellectual properties floating around Hollywood. They screwed up not once but twice with the movies. As far as I'm concerned, it could be as big a franchise as Transformers.
Okay.
And it's just sitting there and it's not been exploited right. Do it right, please. But this is a forced shared universe. What people want to see G.I. Joe mashed up with is Transformers. There's a whole bunch of politics, obviously, as to why that's not happening. And until that can happen, then just reboot G.I. Joe and make G.I. Joe. Don't start putting in all these other brands and characters that... This is the downside now of what Marvel and DC have done, is that certain things deserve this and warrant this, and there's no one more excited than me about these things. But now every studio is chasing the shared universe, and it's getting a little sad.
What do you got to say?
You know what I gotta say?
Tell me.
Actions speak louder than words. This is nonsense.
Oh my God!
This is nonsense, Paramount. G.I. Joe,
Well, not
okay.
G.I. Joe.
I grew up on G.I. Joe.
All right.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
Micronauts, Visionaries, Mask, and ROM. What is this? I don't know this. Kids today don't know this. This is so forced. It's gonna blow. I hope it blows up in your face.
Oh my God!
Here's what I don't get. The Transformers is become a diminishing franchise. It's still doing $1 billion, but it's mostly overseas. Domestically, it's diminishing. This is the time. This is the opportunity. Mash it up with
G.I. Joe and Transformers,
No
that's
one
right.
is
We
better
are in
suited to
agreement that G.I.
inventing-
Joe's dope,
We're
correct?
totally agree, but no one is better suited to bringing G.I. Joe to life. There's no man better suited than Michael Bay. That would be the ultimate guy to do it. So use Transformers as the
13
vessel to
hours.
do that.
13. Oh my God, that movie was so
Imagine if
awesome.
13. Yeah.
Michael Bay directing Snake Eyes.
But
Come
what
on.
are the rest of these brands? It's just throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. I feel
like-
like, and the writers room they've assembled, I'll give them credit.
Oh, some
Come
great
on,
writers.
guys.
Brilliant writers.
They got some of the dopest writers.
Of course,
Yeah.
lots of women, a lot of diversity.
And that
I
doesn't
credit
happen in
them
the
for
fanboy
that.
space.
But I just don't like this TV approach to
The writers'
screenwriting.
room. This is the
Yeah.
new way. It's all TV approach.
don't like it.
Marvel, DC, Universal shared monster universe. It's all going this way. It's just like it or not. But I agree with you.
Like I said last week on the show, and we were watching Civil War last week, I look at this movie and like, why can't G.I. Joe be this good? The whole Captain America series is what G.I. Joe should aspire to
Captain
be,
America
man.
makes me think that about G.I. Joe. When I watched the first Thor movie, I'm like, they're so crazy. Where's Masters of the Universe? Marvel, again, and Disney prove a lot that it's not rocket science, and that if you give the people what they want, they will clamor to see it. If you try and break everything down and put it through some weird matrix that most other studios use, you get movies that don't connect with audiences.
Consumers are getting smarter. I just feel like they're gonna smell this one from a mile away.
Well, if we get a G.I. Joe universe out of it, at least where a new franchise is born and get to see...
Hopefully the first one they make is G.I. Joe and they do a great job, okay?
Hi, I love that. All right, let's keep it moving. You guys like shattered my fanboy dreams today.
I'm with you. I want an ultimate G.I. Joe movie, dude.
So do I.
I just don't
Snake
need all those
Eyes.
other characters and properties. Either do G.I. Joe by itself or use Transformers to reboot Joe. Don't mix and match.
What's wrong with Mask? Mask was dope.
By the way, to me, Joe blew it. Like you said, I gave that
Twice.
franchise a shot. I'm out. I'm done. I'm out.
What do you think of Akiva?
I want Transformers versus G.I. Joe.
So do
Redawn
I.
of Tatum, okay? That's what I want.
What do you think of Akiva, like being like the Feige of this, controlling the
Another guy who
writers' room?
seems to have no finger on the pulse for what young people want. Why do they keep going to Akiva? I know that he's talented.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the studio way. That's the every studio except for Disney way, which is Disney is the only studio in Hollywood that literally prioritizes their IP. They say, this is our intellectual property, it's valuable, we're going to handle it. Literally from that. Every other studio is still working in an OG way, which is talent first. Directors, actors, all the material has to service that. That's an interesting way. Unfortunately, it's a dying way.
But it brings me back to the Jack Warner days where the IP is greater than the talent. You know?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving. So we now come to that part of the show where we answer your Twitter questions that you use the hashtag #HeroicInsider. So our first question comes to us from @Adrian21McLean. McLean, yeah. Rank which studio makes most box office this year? Comic book movies only. WBDC, Disney Marvel, or Fox Marvel? You go, Dan.
Disney, because Civil War will gross between 500 and 600 domestic, which will put it several $100 million ahead of BVS, which means that whatever they gross on Suicide Squad, which I think is going to be sizable, still won't be enough to make up the difference once you throw in Doctor Strange.
So your top 3 ranking?
I would go Disney #1, and then I think it's going to be close between Fox, Marvel,
Really?
and Warner's. Yeah, because Deadpool has made more domestically
That's right.
than BVS, but not much. And it's very hard to see X-Men Apocalypse necessarily outgrossing Suicide Squad, to be honest.
I don't know. It might be a wild card there.
They could be very close, but I think I'm pretty sure and confident Disney's #1. The other two you got to watch.
I agree. I think you have to go with Disney just because Civil War is going to be the clear leader. But I don't. Yeah, the X-Men Suicide Question is very difficult to judge. I guess I'll go. I guess I'm gonna go Fox Marvel over Warner Brothers.
For second place.
Yeah, as far as box office goes.
X-Men's got, and a colleague of ours is working on a story about what's going to happen with Wolverine, the X-Men movie. And what I'm hearing, it is incredible, bro. So think about
Apocalypse?
it. Yeah,
well,
bro.
he's the wild card. He's the ace up the sleeve.
Exactly.
I think that movie could be a little sluggish, but if they do Wolverine and he shows up and he's badass, that's always their crutch to lean on.
I mean, I like Suicide Squad's positioning in the late summer. I will say that because that could have some legs. Whereas X-Men, you know, the week after X-Men opens, you have 3 huge openers.
What does open after X-Men?
I think it's like, actually, it has a week to itself because it's like the biggest movie is Pop Star.
Same weekend as Alice.
Pop Star's like a
X-Men is the same
Sure,
weekend as Alice, yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Then the following weekend is pretty weak, and then the next weekend is like Conjuring, Now You See Me, Warcraft. Like, it's going to have to hustle,
Turtles
essentially.
is coming after it. Turtles is coming close after it.
Right, that's the week after, I think.
That's going to cut under it.
Early June.
Interesting. Okay, next question
You're
comes from us from Trico_Slatterus. Do you think WB would ever consider calling the Batfleck films The Dark Knight Returns? Danny?
Well, first things everybody knows, one of the favorite pastimes that Umberto and I have is to get together and watch, and Jeff will really love this, so we spend hours, my friend, watching a 3-hour R-rated animated movie, which is the Dark Knight Returns animated movie, which if you haven't seen, you should watch.
I haven't.
Of course not.
Oh, God.
And I think it's a masterpiece. I know you think it's a masterpiece. Look, I think the pieces are still there. I know they fought, and that negates it to a lot of people, but it's kind of easy to be like, hey, he goes and gets the kryptonite again, and puts that suit away for a time when they're going to have to duke it out. I still think the pieces are there. I always felt that that's what Sneider was setting up when he had first got a hold of Batman, that he was paying so much homage to Dark Knight Returns because he was sort of telling the story that brings us to Dark Knight Returns, which is that darker take on DC. So it's going to be a divisive argument because some people are going to say, hey, if you do that, you have to literally do it as an exact adaptation, which means you're set in the 80s and you have Reagan and all these other stuff. I am willing to, based on how Ben Affleck handles his Batman movie, which I'm very optimistic for, to say leave that option on the table because he could bring a lot of pesos to that and just do something incredible.
Okay.
He's like,
I've read a handful of Batman comics. Batman's my favorite character. I've read a handful of comics. I haven't read the big ones. So I really...
Like Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, no.
You
gotta give him a fanboy education.
You want to see that movie, right?
Of course.
You still see it how they could do it, right?
Absolutely.
You're with me.
He directs it, okay? 200 million opening weekend, goes to $1 billion. Yeah. I could see a version, like he's in his 50s. He actually does play the older Bruce Wayne. I'm like, Dark Knight 3 right now, the Master Race, has that version of Bruce where he's like literally crippled and it's turned into the Batman Beyond kind of way Batman. So, but
if we're going to accept sequels to Dark Knight Returns in the comic book space, we should accept a filmic adaptation. Okay. We should be ready for that.
All right, cool. The next question.
Abstain.
Just like, what is this conversation? How am I dragged into this?
All right. The next question comes to us from @StephenP01. And this one is for you.
All right.
Do all potential MCU actors screen test with other MCU actors like Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr.?
I could not say definitively one way or the other. I think it depends. Someone who's a really important character like Spider-Man, yeah, they want to see how he does against Iron Man. You know, they need to have a certain quippy rapport as they do, as we see in Civil War.
Exactly. At least RDJ, right? Like he's got to be a part of it.
Yeah, like Holland, like all the Spider-Man contenders definitely read with Robert Downey.
Like the close contenders, like the top. Like
the top 5 or whatever. But yeah, no, I don't think that everyone who's coming in is. I don't think Zendaya's reading with Robert
but
Downey.
Seeing the movie like we saw, I have a feeling the scene in the movie is the audition piece, like they brought in for Holland when he finally read it down.
That feels right.
Thanks, guys. Great.
And I don't know.
There's no spoilers.
Keep dropping the spoilers. Yeah, it's
it's no spoilers. But it was a pretty organic scene, though. I saw the report.
It was already reported on at CinemaCon.
Oh, okay.
I feel like they showed that scene, right? In Sony's presentation, no less.
Yeah.
Wow. It was like Sony showing footage from a Disney movie, which was odd.
Very odd. especially from Robin. Interesting.
But yeah, I would imagine that there are some select screen tests. It all depends on who these characters are interacting with on the screen, though.
Interesting. Cool. All right. Our next question comes to us from @eMaverick2683, and this one's geared for you, bro. Could X-Men Apocalypse be a box office flop, especially in the U.S.? I personally don't think so because of the secret weapon they just added in reshoots.
Well, we just discussed it. What you said. First thing, the word flop. No, I don't think X-Men Apocalypse. There's any path for the movie to be a flop. Come in lower than X-Men Days of Future Past, somewhat underneath it. That's a possibility. I have my personal worry about it not having Hugh Jackman, although as we discussed, they're rectifying that. It also goes up against Alice the same weekend, which could shave off some. It may not, maybe different audience, may not be something that we're going to run to see, but the last one made $1 billion. That's a threshold that no X-Men film has ever hit. So I think you should be prepared for it to possibly come in a bit lower than Days of Future Past, but maybe a bit higher than First Class. But flop, no, there's no flop. These movies are designed. It's like when we talk about BVS, just to bring that up.
It's too big to fail.
They're too big to fail, exactly. They may disappoint, they may underwhelm, they may not be the overperformer or the one that hits all cylinders, but they're all now too big to fail.
Yeah, X-Men's going to do pretty well. I'm very confident in that. Part of it is just the apocalypse of it all. I think people want to see the X-Men take on this huge villain, and then also the new, younger mutants. People are curious about those. Like this X-Men movie has a lot more to offer. It may not have Hugh Jackman. I don't know if he's in it or not. It
totally does.
Okay, then, I hated Days of Future Past. I thought it was awful.
Wow. Did you like X-Men 2 and X-Men 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I love X2.
That's my favorite.
Days of Future Past I couldn't stand. Could it take but it did very well.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that they're going to be just fine with Apocalypse.
Okay. Our next question comes to us from @TimLinden0, and this one's geared for you. Any idea who Laura Harrier is playing in Homecoming? MJ, fingers crossed. I figured, why not ask the reporter who broke the story?
Hey!
You had an interesting theory, too, but go on.
I don't know who she's playing. I don't see her playing necessarily like MJ, like in name. Maybe she's the love interest or something like that. I also, by the way, I couldn't find how old Laura Harrier was. I have no idea if she's playing 17 or playing early 30s. I literally couldn't find an age
I think
on
she
this
is
girl.
in the late teen, early 20s.
Okay.
She can't be.
Because she's been around for a little while.
Right.
She's
Maybe
a
not.
A model. And anyways, my theory, which I brought up to you in private, was, in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they introduced Felicity Jones as Black Cat.
Right.
And then nothing, that's dead. That's dead and gone. Why not trot her out as the Black Cat? Or maybe she could be playing the Black Cat. I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm down for Black Cat.
It's food for thought.
They need to either do Black Cat or also the stuff that's going on with Gwen right now. They need to do something. And there's a lot of cool female badasses in the Spider-Verse. But
do you like the diversity, though? They're making queens look like queens, right?
Queens shines in Civil War. Okay, that like.
Here we go again.
No spoilers.
Every chance he can,
No.
Every chance he can.
But it's Zendaya, Laura Harrier, and Tony Revolori, none of whom are white.
Technically, that's how
cool.
multicultural Queens is.
Then that's how it looks, and that's how it should be reflected. I think that's terrific.
Okay, our last question, which is also leading into a heroic scoop drop, comes from Alada PMK. Any news on Shazam movie or Captain Marvel movie? Okay, I have a bit of an update on the Shazam. I've been getting asked about this movie. So, I'm like you on this one. Personally, I don't care about the Shazam. That's why I don't chase it. No, it's
secret weapon for Warner's.
It's got The Rock.
Could do so much for DCU if that movie hits.
I agree. It could be their Deadpool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the latest is they're waiting for a draft of the script. Okay, and upon delivery, they're going to go out to directors to see get this package going. So, that's the only thing I have left to report on that. But
Shazam involves a little boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
So it's funny. The one that I don't like, you both like. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Shazam. I also, my college screenwriting advisor, Brian Goluboff, he was one of the earliest writers on Shazam.
Really?
So there's a bit of like an emotional thing where I just want to see that get off the ground, see if any of his ideas, not that I know what they were, make it into this film.
I just feel like that is a winning property for Warner Brothers.
Dwayne's casting.
You obviously the second you have him, you're already starting at a great place. But conceptually, with what happened with BVS and how some people, myself included, feel about how Superman has been treated. Shazam would be a really nice character to come into the DCU and lighten things up and add some mythology.
Who do you think would play Shazam if you were casting?
I don't know.
Who'd you cast?
You've got The Rock as Black Adam, which is perfect. Go for an unknown.
Really? And like
Yeah.
so another Henry Cavill.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you?
I don't know the properties, that we are looking for. I'll just throw. I mean, it's like a 30-year-old guy, right?
Yeah.
White guy.
Yeah. This. Of course.
I'll throw it out there. Glenn Powell from Everybody Wants Him. I just thought that was such a. He's going to be a star. He could be the
Is he
next.
good? Like, is he?
No, he's not. He's not necessarily ripped. Maybe he could be. I think he was like in
Henry-
Expendables. But
Henry Cavill wasn't ripped when he was in that.
Anybody can get ripped for the right role. They pay you enough money and they give you a good trainer. All right,
it's funny.
You know this.
We had Zach Woods from Silicon Valley in our office yesterday, and someone had said, I guess he was changing for the shoot. They caught a look under his shirt.
Okay.
They said he's got some definition. And maybe Zach Woods is training for some kind of cool superhero movie. Who
Look,
knows?
if you are a young actor today in Hollywood, you know that the chances that you're going to play a superhero are higher than ever.
You gotta
right?
be ready.
It's a
Yeah, you
whole
gotta be on
new,
call.
It's a whole new
you
dynamic.
don't have the abs ready to go.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, that's all we have time for. So, for more of these stories, please check out Heroic Hollywood. But even more important, please do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button below if you like Heroic Insider and want the show to keep going. So subscribe to Pop Boom to make sure you get the notification where the latest episode drop. Danny, where could the good people find you?
They can find me at dalter007 on Twitter.
And Ace Scooper from The Rap, where could people find you?
At the Sneider on Twitter, you can find my daily musings on therap.com.
Nice. Okay, and you can find me at El Mayimbe on Twitter and at Heroic Hollywood across all social media platforms. Thank you once again for joining us. Mayimbe out.
Peace.